Let me read that. We can have safe homes, hospitals, streets, schools, communities. Let me read that. All right. Let me read that. We can have safe homes, hospitals, streets, schools, communities. As I have so many times when in the presence of movement family, I'll center the moment and myself with the words of Angela Y. Davis. I'm no longer accepting the things I cannot change. Instead, I'm changing the things I can no longer accept. Good afternoon, movement family. It's good to be here surrounded by such a committed coalition of justice seekers, table shakers, movement builders that make up the community safety agenda. Time and again, organizers like all of you today have stood in the gap, fighting to reimagine America's flawed approach to public safety in a way that puts our communities first. Thank you to my brilliant and indomitable sister in service, Congresswoman Summer Lee, for convening us today. Thank you to my advocates and my colleagues in service, Representatives Horsford, Scanlon, and McBath, for their partnership. The community safety agenda, yes, it is a mission. But it is a mission born out of a movement that has long pushed our nation to center the dignity and humanity of all people. A movement that is unrelenting, unwavering, and unafraid in our pursuit to challenge racist, ableist systems of oppression and inequity. A movement that is needed now more than ever. We need an approach to public safety that centers care and compassion, not cruelty, not criminalization. And let me say, with this administration hell-bent on attacking immigrants and separating families, if you are fighting against mass deportations, you should also be fighting against, well, actually, they're mass kidnappings. There's no due process, so it's not mass deportation. But the point is, this is all a for-profit system. So if you care about mass incarceration, then you should care about mass kidnappings or deportations. These are two sides of the same coin that are driven by a for-profit system. For far too long, our most vulnerable communities, and especially Black and brown folks, have been subjected to surveillance, brutalization, and incarceration when they should have been met with care, justice, and healing. Our nation has long perpetuated a system rooted in hurt and harm. We treat trauma with more trauma. We treat trauma as a threat, and we meet pain with punishment. All in the name of so-called public safety. But there's nothing safe about ignoring and incarcerating someone in the midst of a mental health crisis. There's nothing safe about criminalizing a student's normal adolescent behavior and putting our children on a pathway to confinement. There is nothing safe about letting law enforcement profile, brutalize, and murder people without consequence. But we continue to see this violence every day. Just this weekend in Massachusetts, in the Commonwealth, a man in mental health crisis was tragically killed during an encounter with law enforcement. Tragedies like this one are preventable. They are a painful reminder of why we need policies like my Mental Health Justice Act and People's Response Act, which takes a public health approach to public safety and would help save lives. This work, like so many of us, is deeply personal to me. My father, now a retired accomplished author and former college professor, was absent from my formative years because he had an addiction that was criminalized. Rather than being met with compassion and care, my father's addiction was met with criminalization and incarceration. There are so many people today, Black and brown men like my father, who are battling addiction or otherwise in need of care. And by imprisoning them, we are missing out on their brilliance and innovation and all the contributions they could be making to society. We have a moral obligation to put an end to the generations of policy violence that is literally killing our people. Today, we fight for every individual who has been met with brutality, with criminalization, with suffering, when they should have been met with care. We will not let up on our pursuit of justice. The community safety agenda is an acknowledgement of the harm and a powerful step toward healing for those harmed by our unjust criminal, legal, and policing systems. With the support of this broad coalition, I introduced the People's Response Act with Congresswoman Lee to take a trauma-informed public health approach to public safety. It's well past time that we confront our country's mass incarceration crisis head-on and transform our unjust criminal legal system. Mental illness is not a crime, and it's time we stop treating it as one. Today, Trump and Republicans are showing us daily what it looks like to legislate hurt, harm, and oppression through their mass deportation agenda, harmful executive actions to unleash law enforcement, and unprecedented assault on black and brown communities. So we stand here as proof of what it looks like to legislate equity, what it looks like to legislate healing, what it looks like to legislate justice. We will not back down. And I'm all right with this heat and being uncomfortable. That will ensure that none of us ever grow complacent in this work. So nothing wrong with being a little bit uncomfortable. And with that, I will invite to the podium Thea Sebastian, Executive Director, the Futures Institute. All right, thank you.